Okay, morning everybody. Let's make a start. Okay, so minimize this. Again, thanks for taking the time to join my webinar this morning. I'm Adrian Duckenfield, pre-sales engineer from the UK and Ireland, and today we are going to be looking at and talking about WatchGuard Dimension, our report server. So as you all are probably fully aware already, the firewall comes with a whole bunch of UTM facilities built in. So you've got your web filtering, anti-spam, this, that, and the other. That's all very well, but also you're going to need powerful reporting tools to be able to see where your guys have actually been going, what they've been up to, how much bandwidth they've used, that kind of thing. So we created Dimension. Now, Dimension is a virtual machine, so you can download this for VMware and you can download it for Hyper-V. So it's not a software installation package, it is a virtual machine. I think probably the best thing about Dimension is it's free. So I know some of our competitors do charge for their reporting tools. We don't do that. It's a free of charge tool. So you can download this for free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to download it. I'm going to show you how to install it, and then I'm going to go through and give you a demo of the kind of things it can do. As like all of my webinars, this is being recorded, so at the end I'll give you some FTP details so you can download this afterwards, as there's quite a few things you probably need to do. So let's have a look. Okay, so first off, downloading. If you were to go to software.watchguard.com, it redirects you to this, and it couldn't be easier to download it. It's there, Dimension 1.3 update 2. That's where we are at the moment. Click on that. It takes you to where you need to be. There's your Hyper-V. There's your VMware. Now at home I'm running VMware, so I'm going to download the VMware one. I've downloaded it already because it's about, I think it's about 500 or 600 meg. So I best not download that whilst I'm on the webinar because that could take us a couple of minutes, right? So I've already downloaded that. It's saved on my desktop. So let's go through and actually deploy it. Let's get rid of this for now. Okay, right. So I'm in my ES6i server, and all I'm going to do is go up to File, Deploy OVF Template, wait for something to happen. Okay, I'm then going to browse to where I've saved this OVF file, which is on my desktop. There it is. Oh, there we go, 450 meg. So it is quite a size, but then it is an entire machine, right? So we go through next. Okay, and then you go next, and then you agree, and then you go next. Call it whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it set as Dimension. Keep it nice and easy. Now, here's an interesting one. Thick provision or thin provision. If you don't know the difference between this, basically it's going to, if I do thick provision, it's actually going to allocate that disk size for this machine. So it is going to remove or use that section of hard disk. If I go to thin provision, it'll pretend it's that big, and then if it doesn't use it, you've still got that extra capacity to use for other machines. So personally, I'm going to go thin provision. Pretty much it. Power on. So as you see, that's pretty straightforward. Okay, and off it goes. It's going to start deploying. So this just takes a minute or two. So this is now actually building the machine in the background. As you see, it doesn't take very long. The beauty of the VMware, of course, is you can do snapshots. If you want to upgrade the virtual machine to a later version, you can take a snapshot before you do so. There is actually a backup facility within Dimension as well. And it just means you can add and remove resources. So it's much better than a software application. And being its own machine, it means the operating system is only running this report tool. It's not doing anything else. So the machine is actually nice and fast. For those of you who are probably going to ask, it's a hardened version of Linux. I think it's Ubuntu actually running in the background. But it's been custom chopped up just for us. It's then running a couple of PostgreSQL databases on there as well. One for the log server, one for the report server. But you can point out your own SQL server if you wish. Nearly there. It's like watching paint dry. Actually, no, that's probably more exciting. Oh, there we go. Get some of that. Okay, the machine then boots up. Now, you kind of need DHCP on the network where you spin this up. You can console straight into the VMware itself, and then you can run a script basically to manually set an IP address and subnet and default gateway. That's all in the help file on how to do that. But if you put it on a network which has DHCP, it's going to be much, much easier for you. So here it is. I've picked up 1.27. Now this is just an IP it's picked up. What we're going to then do is we're going to browse into this and give the machine some configuration. So HTTPS. Okay, certificate warning error. That's normal. Right, and here we go. Admin and read-write are your defaults. So basically, just like it is on the firewall, it's the same one. The first thing you're presented with is basically a quick setup wizard. This is going to make you set the IP address of the device, passwords, and as you see, the encryption key to talk to the firewall. So we go next. Give it a name. Static IP, please. 192. I'm going to give it that because I'm feeling outrageous today. /24. Default gateway. Man, this is rock and roll. Now DNS, it doesn't matter which one you use, to be honest. This is just for dimension to be able to pull things like updates and this, that, and the other. It's not really used for anything else. So you can use internal or external. I'm going to use our favorite, Google, and domain name if you want to. The feedback down here, this is purely to do with diagnostic information for dimension. Nothing incriminating or confidential will be sent back up to us. It's purely just the stats of the actual VM itself, which we can use to help improve the product. So I'm going to leave that ticked. All right, change the password. God, juice. Let's go with password. There we go. Next, encryption key. Okay, so this is the encryption key that is used to encrypt the data from the firewall to dimension. It doesn't matter what you put in here as long as you use the same at both ends. So again, I'm feeling rock and roll. I'm going to go password. Look at that. Next. And that's just confirmation. Are you sure you want to do this? Yeah, go on then. Okay, and it's just going to spend a couple of minutes preparing everything for me. Doesn't take too long. Whilst it's doing that, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump onto my firewall config, and I'm now going to point to this firewall to look at that dimension instance. And that's really easy to do as well. So you just go setup, logging, send log messages to a log server. Now, in the latest version of firmware, we have 11.10. You will notice now you have 2. Before you didn't. You only had 1. You could add multiple IPs in that one list, but it would only ever send data to one of those devices. Now we actually have 2. So you can have 2 separate dimensions running if you needed to. Obviously, I'm just going to put the 1 in here. So we're going to add 192.68. And then there's my encryption key again. Password. Nobody's ever going to hack that, that's for sure. Wicked. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to save that back to the box. Incidentally, that password there, that isn't password. So don't try and hack me, please. Okay, let's let that save. There we go. Right, okay, so let's jump back onto my dimension. That says it's finished and ready to rumble. Click on next. You need to go to that IP address. Yeah, I know. And then we click on that IP address. Oh, this is going well, isn't it? Go on there. Okay, admin, password. And we're in. Oh, and look, there's my firewall. That's how easy it is. Is it connected? Yes. There we go. Then what we can do is you then click on your firewall and then you can start looking at the information. Now, the beauty of Dimension is you can point tons of firewalls to this. So if you're like an MSP, you can have all of your customers pointing to this one Dimension server. Then what you can do is create groups, group them together. Customer A, there's his 10 firewalls. Customer B, there's his 5 firewalls. So that way you can report on them as a group, or you can report on them as individual devices. Very, very useful. So I can click on my firewall and up we come. Now you're really not going to see too much here at the moment because obviously it's only just built. It hasn't even had any information sent to it. So as you see, my screen is blank. So I think at this time, I'll go through some of the menus, but then after that, I think we probably have to jump over to our demo box, which is this one over here. Okay. On the top right-hand corner is all your menus for actually managing Dimension. So I can go into here. You see here we have scheduled reporting. The scheduled reporting is a really nice feature. So I can go down into this tab. No, it's not even built it yet. Basically, you can go in there and you can select any of your reports to run, and they will be emailed out automatically. Log server management. The beauty of this as well is it only uses a certain amount of disk space, but what we can actually do in here is you can configure it to only allow, say, only use 40 gig and then purge off after that, or you can say I only want to retain the last 60 days, for example. So you can manage the quoting on time and on disk capacity as well, so that's really quite useful. Let's go through here. Notifications, logging, reporting. This stuff's all pretty straightforward. You guys know what to do anyway, but we'll make you aware of this one. You can actually back up the database. Now, in VMware and Hyper-V, you can kind of take snapshots anyway, so it's really down to you how you do that, but I would certainly advise you do it. It's SQL, so it's a rock-solid database anyway, but you know, you can never be too safe, especially if the hard disk you've installed it on suddenly kills over. At least you've got a backup somewhere else on the network, so you can restore your data afterwards. Database management, all pretty much the same. Again, you don't really ever need to go in here and play with any of this. This is just the logs for the SQL. However, user management, this is kind of cool. So if I switch it to read-write mode, it might give me a few more bells and whistles to play with. There we go. So the nice thing about this is you can add multiple users. But you can also link this to Active Directory as well. So what that means is, you know, CEO can log in and see reporting on everybody. Manager can log in and see reporting for only his users and groups within AD, and so on and so forth. So you can be very, very granular with who does what. And then finally, system settings. Yeah, just gives you some information there. So you can upload your own certificate in there to stop you getting that certificate warning error. The only thing I'll make you aware of in here as well is the upgrade. So as and when we do release upgrades, go back to the software or download.watchguard.com, both of those work, and you just download the update patch, point this to it, and it updates it. It's really quite straightforward. So the management behind the scenes of Dimension is actually, you know, it's pretty easy. It's not rocket science, this stuff. I'll let you guys probably play around with that. If you have any specific questions on this side of it, feel free to email me at the end. I know there's some questions coming through already. I'll pick those up at the end and we can go through them. But let's actually go through and let me show you what Dimension can actually do for you. So let's jump over to this demo. Now this demo, incidentally, as you see, is demo.watchguard.com, and you can log into this right now yourself if you wanted to. The username is demo and the password is visibility, which I struggle to spell, but anyway. So then we pick on our firewall, and in we go. Voila, here it comes. You may notice a slight lag with this demo. That's because it's hosted in the States. I haven't got one. We don't have one locally here in the UK, unfortunately. Right, so you log in. The first thing you want to do, you want to pick your time frame of when you want to report this data on. So last week, today, the last hour, however you want to do it. Incidentally, the data in here is going to be about 2 minutes old. So that's pretty much real time, right? It's not bad for a reporting engine. Bearing in mind, reporting is designed to look back over historical data. 2 minutes old is pretty good going. If you want something which is real time down to the nearest couple of seconds, then log into the web UI of your firewall, where you're going to see this same dashboard as what we've got here. Anyway, let's have a look at what we got. So I've specified my timeframes. The first thing I get is this executive dashboard, which has given me a nice top 10 on everything I care about. So here is some advanced malware which we've blocked. Here's my top clients by bandwidth. I've got top websites being visited, applications, web categories, protocols, this, that, and the other. So straight away, I get a real good feel for what's happening across my network at this particular period of time. The nice thing here is I can drill down as well. So for example, let's have a look at Michelle. She's on 1 gig. So if I click on Michelle, voila. Okay, I can now see the top 10 of everything Michelle has done. So there's her, and we can instantly see that 1 gig is Dropbox. There it is. It's picked it up by domain. It's also picked it up by the exact the URL that's being used. It's also picked it up saying it's a web browsing thing that's been happening there. And if we scroll down, the protocol that was used, and it was a file transfer. So that's pretty good. Okay, so what if I want to see what else Michelle's been doing? Now, I'm too lazy to type, so I'm just going to take a copy of this. I'm going to come down and I'm going to run a summary per client report. So I'm just going to pop in her username. You can do it on IP and machine name as well. Click on update, and bam, there's my data. So it comes back real quick. So the first thing we see on the left-hand side is the bandwidth, the different bandwidths throughout the different time period of time. So I can see what hours of what days she actually spent surfing. And again, I've got my most popular websites being visited. If you scroll down, we get a list of 20. This list of 20, last time I checked anyway, it could be configured to be 50. So you can add more to that if you need to. But top 20 gives you a pretty good idea what that person's doing. Application usage, here we go. Yeah, DNS is going to be the biggest one, followed by the browser. You're always going to find that, if I'm honest, pretty much. But as you scroll further down, you'll see other apps in there that are useful. And again, in this list, this is where you're going to see that Michelle's probably posted on Facebook, I don't know, 600 times in the last day or something like that. So you're going to see that kind of information in this list. So you can see here we've got a bit of YouTube, a bit of Twitter happening down here. There's even a Twitter plugin on her machine from the looks of it. That's interesting. And she's using Chrome and IE. She's using IE more than Chrome. Who does that? That's just weird. Okay, let's just move this out of the way. Like so. Okay. As you go further down, we're then looking at the web blocker. So this is the WebSense Triton database down here. And we get an idea or a feel for what her web activity has been. So we can see here 40% is being search engines. Okay, not bad. 20% is adverts. She's going to some interesting sites. Government. Gosh, it's quite dull. Oh, look, Facebook. Interesting. So there is quite a bit of Facebook going on there. And shopping. Right, 33% of her traffic has been shopping. Now, if I need to go and have a word, if I need to print this out for HR purposes, or I need to go and have a word with her, all I need to do is pop on this PDF button at top like so. A couple of seconds later, out pops the PDF. It's that quick and easy. I can quicker than my browser, apparently. There we go. There we go. And there's the report. You can add your own custom logos to this top corner up here as well. So now I can go and print this out and maybe have a word and say, probably cut down on the shopping slightly, if you don't mind. So that's a typical user report there. Now, there is also a detailed user report, but this is more to do with like log data, if I'm honest. So if you want like the traffic monitor logs in theory, similar to that kind of information as to what that user has been doing, then you would go in here. As you can see, this one's going to take a bit more time to actually run because there's a lot of log audit information put into there. So it's not going to be pretty and graphical. This is just going to be log data. So it's not necessarily the kind of thing you want to see, but you see here, it gives you that kind of information that this exact JPEG was downloaded from that domain. Okay, what else have we got? Let's work our way up this list, shall we? We have a log search and a log manager. Now this is going to be your traffic reporting. So you're all familiar with the traffic monitor. this is how you search the historical version of that. Now, under the log search, this is a pretty cool feature. I can type in any keyword and search for it, but I can also do this, which means I can say it needs to have this, 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 and this to be able to find the data. So you could do some very detailed, granular searching in there if you needed to. The log manager, this is going to look more familiar. This is going to look just like your traffic monitor logs. Or when it loads. When it's not hosted in America. Don't you just love live demos? There we go. That was easy. So again, you can do the same thing. This is basically your traffic monitor. So top right corner, I can do that single search like you can. Keywords, usernames, applications, denied, allowed, IP address, whatever it is. You can run that search up in there, and then up comes your result, and then you can click on it, and it then gives you basically the entire line of text that would have been in the traffic monitor at that period of time. So that's pretty useful to find, why couldn't Sally VPN in last night at midnight? Obviously, you weren't monitoring the logs, so it's kind of cool to be able to come in here and look at that. Okay, now we looked at the executive dashboard. Let's take a quick look at the security dashboard. This is a very, very similar utility, but now what we're doing is we're looking at everything which is blocked. So I've got my top 10 users being blocked, or malware being blocked, websites, applications, this, that, and the other, vulnerabilities, all sorts of things. And again, there's some sort of crypto locker down here that got blocked. That's interesting. But what we can do is we can, again, drill down. So let's have a look. Web categories, weapons. I've got 12 hits on weapons. Okay, let's drill down. Michelle. Ooh, she's an interesting character. She likes shopping for weapons, apparently. And look, she's gone to swordbuyersguide.com. As well as other various websites in here. So again, I can hit this PDF button in the top right corner, and I can export that if I needed to. And just in case you're curious, let's digress slightly. This is actually a real website. I don't know who found this one. This is a demo box, obviously. So somebody actually went out and found. Look at this fella. You want to mess with him, would you? He means business. He's pretty serious. Jeez. Anyway, there we go. So that's what's being denied. And again, you can go back and you can look at all the malware and drill down so you can see where the malware has originated from, over what protocol it was trying to come in over, that kind of thing. So let's have a quick look, shall we? Let's scroll right back down here. I'm curious about this one. So let's have a click on that one. A couple of seconds. Okay, so it was Alice's machine. It was over HTTP. And it looks like it was that. It's not even a website. It just came from that IP address. So it was an inbound attack from the looks of it. But it gives you an idea of what it was anyway. Now, threat map is an interesting one. Threat map is going to show you where your firewall has been communicating. Now, at the moment, we're looking at denied packets. So I can see all of my dropped packets from all around the world, and I can click on them and drill down into them. But before I do that, I'm going to change it to be something which isn't so boring. Let's go to web filtering. That could be interesting. Give that a second to update, and there we go. Right, so here is basically, so all your users have been browsing online, all the websites, and this is where they are all hosted. So I can go to, let's go to America. Now the colors, incidentally, people ask me, what do these colors mean? Basically, darker the color, the more traffic has been in that area. So in theory, there are more websites here than up here. That's kind of what it means. So I'm going to go straight to this region here. I'm going to scroll down through my list until I find a website which intrigues me slightly. I don't know. I'm just going to pick a random one, actually. In fact, oh look, FireEye. That's interesting. Who's been going to FireEye, I hear you say. So I click on the IP address, and Alice went to FireEye, apparently. She was allowed to get there as well, which is pretty interesting. And the time and date. So you get to see on the map where it is. Now the map view becomes relevant when you choose to look at other services like the IPS, because it's kind of cool to say, oh, okay, well, I've had some threats come from this particular region, and it was this script that came from here, so forth, and then click on that, so forth and so on. In fact, in the next release of Dimension, which is due to come out in a few weeks' time, we are going to be adding the ability to block based upon geographical location. So I'm using this as an example, But let's say you're seeing a lot of vulnerabilities hitting you from Russia or Korea or something like that. You can, and you have absolutely no business with them whatsoever. You don't go to any websites which are hosted in those areas. You can just literally block them. So that's kind of cool. And the advantage of being able to do that means you're not relying on the IPS or the APT or the Advanced Persistent Threat Scanning or the or whatever. You're not relying on any of those other modules to protect you. You're just cutting them off at a connection level. So that saves resources on the firewall, and it also means there's no chance of it getting past any security features. Now, Firewatch, this is a pretty cool utility. This is how much of something has happened. So a question, I work quite often with education customers, and they always get, the internet runs slow at lunchtimes, that kind of thing. And they want to be able to easily see what's going on. This is your friend to do that. So Firewatch, at the moment, I am looking on the source tab. I am looking at bytes of information. Alice is in a massive blue square because she's done a massive 7 gig. But as you work your way to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you end up looking at the tiny, tiny things that you don't particularly care about. For example, there you go. This fellow's only done 7K, tiny. Now, let's work our way across these tabs, and then we'll start drilling down through this in a bit more detail. Destinations. There we go. Dropbox is my biggest usage from the looks of it. So these are destinations, not websites, incidentally. So if I now go to domains, this is where it's going to query my websites. There we go. Dropbox, Google. And what have we got? Look how small these squares get down here. Look at that. 11K. No, not even heard of that one. 207.net. Application usage. Oh, BitTorrent. 6 gig. Very interesting. Okay, let's filter on that then. One user, Alice. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, so and then what we can go on and do is actually view the connections as well. So we click on that, count to a couple of seconds, and then this demo instance is running slow. Oh, there we go. And then you can actually, again, you can see all of the log details relating to that exact traffic. So that is a pretty useful utility. Web Audit's quite good as well. So that's showing you the categories from the WebSense database. And again, you can do the same thing. So down here, I've got internet, TV, and radio. I can filter on that. These fellas are using the internet, TV, and radio stations. This one the most, and in fact, this one right in the corner down here the least. And again, if I want to view connections just for that one particular user, I can. And then it's going to show me which website he's been to. So there we go. It's pandora.com. Happy days. And then under this policy map, now this one on this demo, this does take a couple of seconds to load, and I don't know why. I'll prove to you in a minute by showing you my box that it actually loads instantly. But for some reason on this demo, it takes a few seconds. So, yeah, it's bound to happen anyway on a live demo, right? It's inevitable. Come on. I wonder if I can actually, bear me a second, fellas. I'm going to prove to you that it's the demo. 2.5, oh hello, that's interesting. 2.5.3. Okay, let me log into my box. It's probably loaded by now anyway. Let's have a look. No, it's not working that bit. Come on. Okay. Jeez, even mine's going slow. Do you think it's because it's Monday morning? My VMware server clearly hasn't had its coffee yet. But you're doing nothing. I'm going to blame Chrome. Do you think I'll get away with that? This just didn't come back at all, did it? How funny would that be if it really is Chrome? There's a lot of eyes and visibility. Ah, there you go. It was Chrome. I love Chrome. It's my favorite browser. Anyway, there we go. So policy map, what this is going to show you is the traffic flowing through the firewall. Now let's change this to be something, again, something a little bit more interesting. So you can go through, you can look at web audit, IPS, all of your subscription services. You can go through and drill down through all of those and actually kind of monitor it going through the firewall. Probably helps if you don't click on the button whilst you're doing it though. And there we go. Excellent. Right, so my trusted interface, my rules going through the firewall, and then we're looking at web audit, right? So we're looking at the all of the 130 categories in the WebSense database, and then were they allowed or were they blocked? And the beauty of this again is you get to actually drill down through here. So I can say, okay, let's show me everything which has been denied. Let's filter only on denied traffic. No, I think there is something wrong with that demo. This is instant, usually. There we go. And here's my categories. Now we've already kind of looked at these ones anyway, right? We've got the weapons, this, that, and the other. So we've got some malicious websites here. And again, I can see the rules that they came through, which is interesting. So I can then filter purely on those ones. And those were my websites and my users that went to them. So that's just web audit. But it's really useful when you're looking at the intrusion prevention or your antivirus, that kind of thing, to see which rules were being targeted or which users were being targeted. It's actually a pretty powerful tool. Then, so everything I've shown you so far, you'll see is on the Tools tab. But then if I jump over to my Reports tab and expand all, I've then got a whole bunch of built-in reports here, which these are the ones that you can schedule to run, and these will be emailed out automatically if you configure the SMTP side of Dimension. There's loads in here. PCI compliance. In fact, let me give you an example of one of these. So here's my subscription services. Let's go to advanced malware. So this is looking at your crypto locker, that kind of thing. So here is some malware that was stopped. I can then actually click on the threat details over here. This is quite nice, threat details, and it's actually going to show me exactly what that malware was going to try and do if it's actually got through. So you see it was going to try and schedule a task. So these are the things that have been sent up to the sandbox, and they've been run up in the sandbox, and we've been able to identify what this malware was actually trying to do. So that's pretty cool. And again, you've got the PDF in the top right corner, so you can just print this out if you needed to. So yeah, everything you can think of is already in the list there for you. Bandwidth, top users, who's been blocked the most, PCI compliance, it's all in there. Before I wrap this up, I know you guys have already sent over a whole bunch of questions, and I'm going to pick them up at the end. But before we finish off, I did a webinar a few weeks ago which showed you how to configure how to configure your firewall config to send the correct information to Dimension. That webinar, I don't think I recorded that one, right? Because it was one of my first ones. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes going through that just to make sure you guys know exactly what to do. Okay, first of all, I've shown you how to point your config, your firewall to Dimension. That's pretty easy. Set up, logging, add log server. The next thing to consider is only proxies, the rules with the little shields, only those ones are going to send you informative log information. Packet filters you can configure. So if I edit a packet filter rule like this one here, I can go to my properties tab, I can go to logging, and I can say send log message for allowed packets. So that is going to send some information to Dimension, but nothing particularly meaningful in respect to what websites they've been to or anything like that. It's just going to be log information. So if you want detailed report information, you have to use proxies. Now, if I edit one of these proxies at random, and if I go down into my proxy actions, like so, the key one is enable logging for reports. If that is not ticked, you will get nothing in your reports, literally nothing at all. Tick that one. The next thing you want to do, if you're interested in the web filtering side, is go to your web blocker, edit your web blocker template, and then under categories, hidden at the bottom here is log this action. Do you remember that pie chart I showed you from Michelle where she had done 33% shopping? That is this tick box. Tick that, you get the pie chart, you get all the web category information in your reports. Then it's really just a case of going through every rule that you care about and all of your subscription services that you're using and telling them to log. For example, if I go down to antivirus, when a virus is detected, we're going to drop it. Yes, great, but I want to log it as well. And I also want to log it when I get a scan error. So that way, when viruses are found, that's logged to the log server. It's going to appear in my report data. Reputation label defense, block bad reputations. Okay, log it. It's the same for all of your subscription services. It's also the same when you're going through your rules in here as well. So you see here, I'm AV scanning Java, PDFs, and a few other little things. If I edit one of those, I'm AV scanning it and I'm logging it. So I get information about what's being stopped. And it's really just a case of going through one thing at a time and logging the things that you care about. So request methods are being blocked, they're being logged. So when you do the log here, what it's really saying is show you this in the traffic monitor. But also that information also then gets sent up to Dimension as well, right? So if somebody couldn't browse a website yesterday, it means you can go and view the historical log information in Dimension and you will see why. If that's not ticked, you're not going to see that request method get blocked from yesterday. So it's important to think about that and to tell it to log everything it needs to do. Anything that's blocked, basically, anything that blocks. If I go into my IPS engine, IPS is set to block everything, brilliant. I've also set it to log everything. I think that's set to log anyway by default, but certainly go in there and double check. And it's literally a case of just going through all of your modules that you have and making sure they're set to log. So between that and between the enable logging for reports and in your web blocker, the one that's always hidden away that everyone always forgets, that one, between those ones, everything you need to log will be sent up to Dimension. Cool. And in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. So I know there's a whole bunch of questions sitting there. Guys, I'm going to pick those up offline afterwards, and I will email you them, my answers back. I do at the end of all my webinars. Now, this is actually the last webinar in the current series, as they say. What I'm going to probably do is rerun the ones I've already done. But what would be good is if you guys have any suggestions or things or any topics that you actually want me to cover, please do add them into the question box on this GoToMeeting. I'll leave it running for a couple of minutes after I close everything down. Put your ideas in there, and then now InfoSec is out the way, we're going to sit down and we're going to work out which webinars we're going to do moving forward for the next season. So if you guys have anything you actually want me to particularly cover off, please feel free to add them in there. And I can't guarantee I'll do them, but I will certainly consider them. And if I think they're ones that everyone wants to see, then I will custom make your own webinar for you. All right, guys. Well, thanks again. And actually, what I'll do, let me go into the chat box, because the question I always get asked the most is, where do can I download your webinar? And the answer to that is yes, you can. In fact, let me just bring up Notepad. It might be easier. Okay. Get rid of this. Thank you. All right. If you wanted to download any of my webinars, you want to go here, like so. The username. God, geez, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've done this. Tell you what, I'll put it in the questions at the end, because I can't actually remember the username and password of my own FTP server. I'll drop it in there at the end for you. Give me 2 minutes, I'll stick it on there. Guys, as always, it's been a pleasure, and I'll speak to you guys again real soon. Thanks for your time.